So I believe it's 72 or 73. I was not prepared for this show. I was talking for the last 5 minutes before the show. My work got ransomwared, and they wanted money, and I can't disclose legally where I work at. But let's just say critical systems for some part of something that you probably use. They wanted money, and me and the crew of 6 people or other are rebuilding that shit back from scratch. They were dumb too. They didn't even use they used they hijacked our domain server and used an exploit to send out a BitLocker encryption, which was like the most retarded shit. Like when people used to get ransomware, they were using what's it called, TOS, which was NSA tools. And I think Echo Blue was the one, but they were using exploits on like some back end shit, like the Windows IME, which was a NSA backdoor. They were using the exploit, so they didn't get into they didn't, like, we were all like, everybody in my work was like all worried about, like, oh god, is this like low level TPM shit, which is like the encryption chip, anti-encryption chip. And I'm like, I'm looking at the BIOS, and the BIOS looks normal. There's nothing weird there. I mean, you can't really check if a BIOS is hacked anyway, but generally BIOSes are pretty fragile. If there's something extra added, they generally don't work. So whatever they did, and what was weird? They said everything was encrypted. They did fuck up some of my personal shit. I had a terabyte flash drive that got permanently fucked. But there were a lot of computers that just had the BitLocker shit. But when I actually checked the drive, it was not encrypted. So I'm like, and when I shut off the server, the BitLocker screen went away, but the insurance company and the cleanup crew says, if you think it was exploited, it has to be either completely nuked or replaced, and we chose the cheaper option of just taking out the hard drives and replacing them, so it saves money.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wonder how many times a day that happens to businesses and
I've been working 12-hour days, dude. Like, I've been, like, Mike, I know most jobs, most work, enterprise, because we're a large enterprise. We're like over, I don't even know how many computers there are, like thousands. The way we had it set up was old school, not like they do now. And to be honest with you, we're not completely cloud. We do our own backups. We have I wouldn't call air gap, but I would say it'd be really hard to get into the backup system because it's not attached in a conventional manner that they would be looking for. So what we have, and all of our internal servers were virtual machines, and they were cloned in a similar fashion almost nightly, and then we do Microsoft cloud infrastructure, so that that doesn't even, what I mean? It's like, because we did a lot of stuff the old way, it saved us a fuck ton of money. you know when our people save stuff on their computers, it's not actually on their computer, it's actually on our network. So yeah, I don't know. I've heard of nightmare stories where companies get hacked and they're down for like 2 months, and we're almost up and running in 7 days. with thousands of computers.
Mm. God,
He says, we're not, I wasn't going to listen to I wasn't going to listen to what these egghead fucking experts were going to say. I'm like, first of all, they don't know how they got in. I was like, okay, I don't know either, because obviously they probably got in through our Avanti VPN, which has an exploit, which they probably haven't figured out yet. And then from there, they found out that we were using some old domain, Windows Server shit, and there you go. You know, just deploy your malware of choice. Uh, anyway, been doing this for like 70 hours this week, and it's not even Friday.
it's, you would, I don't know, from the outside, I haven't done IT, at that level, it's just like, it just seems like there'd be a way to, how do I put it, like, just like clone your system back, or, it seems like they would have something available,
Well,
for this,
we don't know how. That's the weird thing is we don't know how. We know they got into the domain server, and that's how they sent. I'm suspecting that it was like a logon script, or a when you can push live updates through a server. I'm suspecting they used something like that. Whatever they were using was not. The only thing that showed up is like when you restarted the computer, it says BitLocker. There wasn't any cool message. There wasn't any shit. You know what I mean? It was like these guys were kind of like half-assing it. Like, I don't. If this is what ransomware looks like, I'm just like, you guys caused a lot of problems, and now the FBI is looking for you. I guarantee you about that. I don't know if they'll ever catch you, but you're not going to get your money, and it's only going to take me 5 days to fix what you guys did for thousands of computers. Because the only reason it's going to take me 5 days is because they didn't listen to my recommendation about using NetBoot and SCCM, which is basically a imaging system where you can tell the computers just to reimage themselves. But if it was for that, I'd be done. We would have been down for like a few hours. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's like a spam message. If you do it enough times, you're gonna run across a business that doesn't know any better and coughs up the money. That's what you're hoping for.
Most people cough up the money. I told them in Russian to go fuck off. you know, I'm not going to give them money. They wanted like $1 million, and I'm like, they're not getting $1 million.
Oh
I'm
man,
not giving them any money.
it.
They
I
were
don't know. I
dumb.
guess if you're in some other country and an adversarial country, what else would you spend your time, doing? It's worth it, if you get a big one. You're set for life, and uh,
Well, I
I
thought
guess
I thought that's who it was because of who I work for. I thought it was a state actor, but it was just so amateur. I'm almost positive this is just e gangs, e criminals, and they weren't that good. They were not that good. I'm not going to decrypt my shit. I mean, what's the point? Like, I'm gonna give you $1 million in Bitcoin, and with hopes that you're gonna decrypt it. Come on, that's not gonna work. So
I think a lot of these attacks seem like they've gotten old. I
they
would
are.
think that, they've got more than enough. I wouldn't even say patches, but ways around any of these techniques now.
Well,
It
see,
seems like the same old things just getting regurgitated, and
the problem was not the problem was not our operating systems, because a lot of the newer stuff that we have would have bypassed that. But the weakest link is the nerve center, the domain controller, and it 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 the computers will never deny what the admin is saying, if you know what I mean. So if you get the domain controller, then you know that was probably our dumbest shit. I told them, I told many times, like, why the hell are we using this version? Actually, we should have been using something else, but that was just my personal choice. Some sort of just my thoughts. Not using something Windows based just because of all of the stuff. But you know what? It works. It works fine, and most people don't understand the other stuff. So whatever. It is what it is. But I'm gonna be stuck all weekend fixing this stupid stuff. Oh yeah, and speaking of the other stuff, I had an Israeli Facebook dead profile hacked. I'm pretty sure that was related to the Iranian shit. They try to hack a dead profile.
One of yours?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I even got a text message in Hebrew. Yeah, did you hear they were gonna bomb what's it called? Los Angeles. I heard the Iranians want to bomb Los Angeles.
Yeah, they say we're on the list. I mean, hey, if you're at war, I mean, then you're at war, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, it happened yesterday. It happened today in Michigan. You hear that? Some guy happened in New York. Some ISIS guy went to ISIS and threw a bomb and some cops stopped him. And today it was in Michigan, something similar to a Jewish school, and
yeah,
they had ROTC there, and the ROTC kids killed the shooter.
good.
Yeah, with their bare hands. That's crazy.
Golly.
That's fucking
No,
crazy, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's you're going to have incidents like that. I mean, that's
The
I
terrorist was
would
nullified by some ROTC kids. I was like, damn, dude. I did ROTC, but those kids are crazy.
up their game, man. I mean, or we're just that good.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
what do you walk in the rifle range or something stupid? Or I mean,
oh well, in ROTC we did have encampment and training, so yeah, we did have not any kind of fighting stuff, but we were trained on weapons. So I'm assuming color guard probably had
yeah,
access to the flags with the
okay.
poles on them. Yeah, probably use it as a
Demil,
weapon.
yeah,
Yeah,
demil weapons. Yeah, good enough.
hit him with the white, yeah, demilitarized weapons. Yeah. Speaking of, our topic of our show, I was not prepared because of all of this crazy shit. But hey, the leading headline that I've been noticing is there are a couple weird things that are going on. Um, One is related to the war. There's two related to the war, and one that has been happening. There is a missing general that is tied to the UFO program, and nobody's denying that. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I saw the story and I'm like, it's on the back burner. It's just like, well, what happened? I don't jump on the story like that necessarily, right off the bat. I'm curious if he's really missing or not, or if this is some play or ploy, or is it even real? I mean,
Well, his family, yeah, I just got the details today. His wife reported him missing 3 hours after he left. And when he went out, he went on running, but what he took with him was a 38 revolver, which was some of the items that they knew were missing, so they're not sure what went down. Could this just be malpractice or homicide? But it's really strange, like when people this high level, especially if they have SAP level access and they're tied to classified technology and they disappear, it's kind of a big deal, you know?
Yeah, I see your point there. Yeah, I mean it's well, that's what we've been doing to, you know, to the enemy, right? We've been blowing up their leaders and their generals and their scientists. So, um, yeah, I mean that's just I would expect it. You know,
Yeah, I
if you're
think this
clearly
is
at war and you're you know and it looks like we're serious about this, you know, then they're going to take it seriously too. Uh,
I think yeah, you might find a state actor in this. This is a little weird.
and I think, well, I think I've heard that essentially the Russians and the Chinese are saying, they're going to help the Iranians. I mean, it's on,
Well,
and it's
good luck getting into
really
the
all you can
Iranian
do.
airspace because
Yeah, I mean, it's that part of it's their part of the world too. So
the only dumb thing we did is we didn't plan about the Strait of Hormuz being shut down for that long, and we didn't invest in anti-drone technology, which was talked about 5 years ago when the Ukraine war started. Like, hey, maybe we should start doing that. And several military contractors that were on that and suggested it to the military, but I think the only place they ever got deployed was the miniature ones, and they don't have a full version yet. I believe they have one for the ARAMs, and it's still in its development stage where they can develop. They have like drones that will pop out of a side. There some contractors building them, and the same ones were um, uh, in their testing phase for special forces or some I think Green Berets or some shit. But as far as conventional anti-drone and drone shit as America's, we're behind in the game. You can build pretty deadly machine for like $20 and a hand grenade.
yeah, that was the big problem in like Afghanistan. They could always make one of their IEDs, like with a canvas bag and some fertilizer. I mean, for like 15, $20, they can blow you up, and you're spending like 100,000 per guy over there to kill them. It just the ratio is horrible.
Well, what we did is we cloned the Shahed drones and we put EMP devices in them. That's our brilliant plan. I was like, oh, geez.
Hey, there's a guy
The
on.
Ukrainians got some better shit. They took the designs from the I don't know. I'm not sure if you're because I'm into drones, like flying them. There's speed drones that they have that can go almost 400 or 500 miles an hour, and they put a dart on the end of it with like some tracking stuff, and they found out that is the most effective way to take out a drone is to get a one-way drone, not even explosives. You get it to going about 400 or 500 miles an hour, to target another drone, just blow it to pieces, and it'll cost you only a couple $100. That's the cheapest way to get rid of a drone.
Yeah, they had some nice ones, from the Russians that were, like jet and rocket powered. There's old Soviet equipment that they had that they could reverse engineer too. I mean, they had plenty of stuff they could copy,
If we have the old Stingers left, remember the old Stinger missiles, the shoulder-mounted ones?
right?
That would have helped. Jesus, whatever. People are saying this is World War III. I was like, I don't know. But what the strange thing is that Chris Bledsoe in 2 years ago said that when the war between Iran and Israel goes down, he said that there would be orbs over 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 Iran, and that happened the hours before the first attack happened in Iran. Now it's going around the other. They're calling the orb of justice. I was like, well, like I
Who's
was
Justice?
I'm just like, you know, Chris is one of those characters that a lot of people don't like in the UFO community, in general. And I'm not a 100% believer. Even I was kind of skittish about some of the stuff he had said. But there was also a part of me where I'm like, you know what, this guy is 100% genuine. And a lot of the stuff that he says, like, you can tell it's not bullshit. I disagree with some of the things that he thinks that they are, you know, but who am I to say? And I'm not an expert, but the things that he said has come true
Hmm.
on multiple occasions, you know.
Is he another one of these remote viewers of some type? Or
No, Chris was like Chris Bledsoe was a contractor, a bigwig contractor, building multi-million dollar houses. He was literally richer than you and I would ever see. And then he went during the housing crisis in 2008, started losing everything, and he went from living in a $10 million house in North Carolina to having nothing and living in a trailer within a few years, and then developed an autoimmune disease called Crohn's, and then uh, you know while he was getting better from the Crohn's, he started working again and was abducted by what he calls a UFO. And not only was he a witness, there were, his son was involved, his friends. It was like a multi-person. There was enough witnesses to say that there actually something did happen, and there's just parts of Chris' story that people are kind of like WTF, like that. There was like one part where he was getting better from some poisoning, and he was seeing a man that only he could see, and was talking to it. There's just some stuff that he says, but then like, I've been in the paranormal field and the occult stuff, and I've experienced some not like that, but similar, and you don't have any real world, you don't have any real basis for it. So I just kind of put it in the I don't know pile. Even with my own experiences, I know what I know what the message was. I know what it was trying to tell me. No, what it was, I don't know. you know, and that's exactly that's some of that stuff has come out of Chris's mouth, but he's said stuff like he has a prediction. Sometime this year. When the Star of Regulus lines up with with the nose of the Sphinx. The mankind will have a new knowledge. And he didn't predict this. Somebody, supposedly, Lady Fatima has been visiting him um, every Easter
oh wow,
since, yeah, since 2012.
huh.
Who revealed that her real name is actually Hathor, the demigod. I don't think that she's a demigod. I think that it's probably some multi-dimensional being. I don't think it's all encompassing, all knowing. But
Well, you know,
if you lived in some higher dimension where you're not bound to space and time, you would have those kind of qualities, though.
I have trouble with like abduction stories and the whole, that part of the UFO phenomenon. It just, they're just stories that don't really like resonate with me.
Same here.
I mean, there's
Same
a whole
here.
bunch of them. I mean, they're weird, and it's just like it's not something you like want to hear usually because because they are so weird. Uh, but
Well, there's
there's so many of them out there. I don't, I just can't call a person a liar like that. But it's just, sometimes you really got to wonder. But at the same time, it's just like, I mean, that's how weird it is, though. So.
Here's how it
Uh,
is for me, and this is I don't even this is like the first time I've even told anybody about this, and this is how I think that it is part of what we're dealing is interdimensional. Because when I was going through my shit um, years ago, and sometimes it still goes on sometimes, I haven't even said this out loud. There's a part of me that knows that I'm drifting from reality on some level. I know that I'm drifting and I'm going back into that level of craziness. And when I see the phenomenon start happening, I'm able to pull it back to some degree. And eventually it just starts stopping. What I'm saying is that, we might be dealing with, paranormal might, since everything might be consciousness based, there might be some sort of unknown mechanism that allows you to experience these things. Because I've seen, this is the weirdest shit. Like I've seen stuff, and there will be somebody that is seeing what I am seeing when it comes to that kind of shit, and there will be another third person in the room, and they don't see anything. So what are we? What's going on there? You know,
um, well, it's a tuning. See, it's like
yeah. There's
uh,
something that I don't
you,
know, and that's where I think a lot of these stories come from, because they just don't fit the norm. But then again, there are multiple witnesses, as in my shit. So I'm like, I can't pass it off as like, I feel like a crazy person talking about all my shit. The only the only
yeah.
crazy the only weird part is I recorded some of it.
From the people the few that I know that like see things or seem to see ghosts or
I don't see that.
apparitions or have seen UFOs, they have what I would say are like skittish kind of spooky personalities, superstitious. You might call them, especially this one. I mean, because that seems to come up. It's like if and so if you're tuned that way, and what I mean is just like if you're if you're wound up in a way where you're kind of like skittish and afraid of things, you see things a certain way. If you're just kind of open to the world, don't really care, you're just kind of like doing things, enjoying the world, you don't see that. You don't see that at all, like this person does. You could be
For
in the same place, because I'm with this guy all day. It's just like, and he gets these feelings or whatever. I mean, it's just it's that kind of that's what I mean by the tuning. It's there's some kind of tuning involved, like when you're aware or feeling certain ways. That's the tuning.
for me, what stops it is the a lot of the stuff I learned from it wasn't the Monroe Institute stuff. It was one I learned when I was going through the tapes. And it was more like realizing that you are more than just your physical body, and you are much more powerful than you think that you are, um, on an energy level. And kind of let that getting the bad energy out of yourself, which is in some of the earlier trainings. It's not specifically in there, but there is a lot of energy, negativity, releasing. And when I get rid of the negative stuff in my life, generally this stuff starts going away. When I start, you know what I mean? When I start going back on that path, it starts to open that door open again, and then crazy paranormal stuff starts happening. But you're right, there is some sort of weird tuning. Um, just somehow
Yeah,
I'm able to, I'm
just
somehow I'm able to snap out of it just through stuff I have learned along the way. You know.
mean, I've seen that with just the way over the years, not realizing it. I've seen it myself. The way I talk to people, you know, tunes the conversation and the way things go. If you come on too
Yeah.
brash or aggressive, that's not appealing. Um, how you speak and the way you speak, is a tuning as well. All these things we kind of tune into, as we do things and go through life, and that's to me that's the tuning. It's it's hard to explain, but there's an awareness there. If you're just blindly going through life and not even thinking about these things, you'll probably never see it. You
See,
know.
that's what always trips me out about the where my level of the occult and the paranormal cross over into the stuff that I know about the life after life hypnotherapy stuff and the stuff I've learned along the way, going to even learn that shit, which makes a lot more sense than a lot of the religious books. But when it comes to the UFO subject and tying and keep them tying and trying to say it's one thing or the other, it's like I think that it's much more dynamic than what it's not one thing or the other. It's probably a whole box full of everything, you know. So
Yeah,
that
it's not just one alien. It's
yeah,
a
it's not just
whole
one
like
thing.
two of them.
Yeah,
It's not just one interdimensional being. It's probably many types.
yeah.
Uh, so
I can't.
that would explain the range of what you see because it's just too weird. It's like stories, like weird macabre stories that develop. It's real life. For these people as they're going through this. Apparently, but it's just so weird. It's just
I just feel bad for people that haven't experienced stuff. And like I get it. Like, are there ways that I know that I can guarantee you will have a paranormal experience? Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I know ways that you will, like, I can guarantee that you're going to have a paranormal experience, but I don't know how to shut that door for you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you're willing to go through, 10 years of horror, it's nightmare, but there are a few books I know that will guarantee you that you'll get a bump in the night and probably scare the living shit out of you for the next 10 years.
Yeah,
But
that's odd. It's like you're well, when you do open yourself for certain of these experiences, there's this lingering effect.
yeah,
Like it's almost like you've made contact with something, and now you can't get rid of the contact. They've found you now because you opened yourself up and you made this contact, and you can't get away from it,
yeah, I know,
or
I know,
or
I know
it's
one
fine.
book. I know one book that everybody that I've ever known through the occult has had troubles for years after, and me included, even to this day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there is one book that's out there that is not a hoax and is you can buy it, and it's not the book that you guys are thinking of. It's very common though, and you do the rituals and stuff will start happening. So I mean, and I feel fun, like it's like people, like I was watching the was it American Alchemy, where they had one guy from the Legacy UFO program and a physicist, and one was going at it from no level of experience or exposure, and the other guy's going it from experience and exposure. And the other, I can tell, just reading the guy's body language, that he thinks he's just a crock of shit. I'm just like, that's who I used to be until I started opening myself up to this shit.
Yeah, that'd be like me interviewing somebody that's had, I mean, that body language might come through. I would still be interested, and it's important to like log that story, but like deep down it's just like because it's not something I've ever encountered or dealt with. I just it,
You don't know where to put it.
yeah, it's just too weird. I don't other than logging it and making sure it's logged in that fashion, somehow I just there's no interest from me personally. It's just
If you go into UFO lore, like there's a lot of shit that people don't read, and I've been getting into the European non-English translated stuff all throughout Scandinavia, and even some of the older UFO stories uh, all over America and South America. And what is not popular is even more bizarre. Like there's like this one story where um, guy in Kentucky sees a UFO. Next thing he knows, he's seeing somebody smoking a pipe with like cheetah skin, and after it's done smoking the pipe, goes back into the UFO and flies away. Just bizarre shit like that, like
hmm.
stuff that doesn't make any sense. Um, one guys things that come out of, and there's one weird one that I know where it was in Argentina where a guy was driving down a road, and this was in the 40s, and he saw a UFO um, crash, or he saw a crashed UFO, went inside of the UFO off this dirt road that was only accessible during the summer because it would get washed out during the winter. Um, and he saw the dead bodies, he saw everything. He was like, "Holy shit! I got to get somebody, like an ambulance or something." Goes out instead of going to an ambulance, which was too far away. He went to his buddy's house to go see the dead bodies, right? And when they went to go drive to the UFO, all they found was a pile of ash, but they did see a similar craft flying above it. Um, eh, you know, just weird shit.
Yeah, it's it has well, it's like that one with the I sent you. It's like the 17 forest workers that saw that UFO pick up an elk.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's one thing one or two people sees it, but like man, it's like a couple of crews. You're like, well, that's weird.
yeah. I
That's
gotta
what I mean.
get.
It's just like it's this range of weirdness and contact and well, I tell you what. Now, some of you could say, well, that's a weird contact story, but what makes sense about it is, these people in the UFO are hungry. They're picking up food, or you see them over a lake, and there's this like shaft of water or whatever. It's like, well, they're coming getting water.
Yeah,
In fact, this one where my buddy and his brother, when they were kids up on the Ohio River, they said this, it was a tic tac style, and he said it had like ports and windows in it, but so but it's over the river. It's like, well, why would it be there unless it's loading up on supplies? It needs some water. Uh, some of
yeah,
them to me make sense. It's like alien plunder stories. They're contacts, but it was really uh, they were just coming in for supplies.
yeah. With that, I gotta end the show. My wife is yelling at me. Um, we'll have to put the show back on. Let's do the 26th.